I met Adam and Covert. Adam Covert and Frank Caracci. Alan Covert and Frank Caracci came to Gary Shandling's house to play basketball, where we all used to play basketball on Saturdays and Sundays, I believe. And they showed up, and I was like, because when you play lacrosse in college, you don't go away on spring break. So we used to watch reruns of SNL all the time in our dorm room, in between playing video games, you know, in between playing Nintendo. And I said to Sandler, I was like, dude, me and my roommates my lacrosse teammates used to like watch reruns of you guys every day during spring break. You guys are really funny, you know. And he's like, you sound familiar. Where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Connecticut. Why? Where are you from? He's like, I'm from New Hampshire. I'm like, oh wow, you shoveled more snow than me. He's like, we should play one-on-one after this. And we played one-on-one after that at Shandling's house and became like best buddies almost immediately. You know what I mean? It was love at first sight. Not love like friendship, you know. But no, that was a long time ago. I was a PA on the Sanders Show at that point. Adam he had just finished shooting Happy Gilmore. I went to the premiere with him, and then from there on I started doing the comedy albums with them, and then The Wedding Singer, and then, you know, the rest is history. And it's funny because our relationship started with basketball, and literally on Grown Ups 2, on the set of Grown Ups 2, we would play. I have to live either I live with him before his wife and kids show up, or I live like within a mile or two from him so that I can be ready to play basketball before we start work. During work, we play sometimes 2-3 times a day. We did play with Shaq. Yeah. Shaq. Hey Dante, me, you, and Sandman are the big three. Sound familiar, Shaq? Yeah. Shaq doesn't play pickup ball even with his kids. He says he shoots around with them. He said he doesn't like to run around because his you know, the body hurts a little bit. And me, Shaq, his cousin Sandler, and I think maybe even Lochran. Yeah, Lochran was the other guy, the cross-eyed guy. You know, that guy. He was the 5th guy on our team, you know. And we ran we played anyone on set for one like 2-hour period, and we schooled everybody, man. And Shaq was playing point guard and having me post up some little kid down inside, like playing full court with Shaq. That was one of the biggest dreams that I never thought would happen in my life, you know. And he's the most respectful guy in the world of us. He literally looked at Adam and I, and he's like, hey man, I just want to tell you guys, the reason I'm as funny as I am is because I watch your movies over and over. And Sandman and I are like, no dude, you're Shaq. You're fucking funny on your own. I mean, you're hilarious on your own, because obviously everybody knows how funny Shaq is. And he said, no, but seriously, he goes, every time I won a championship, anytime I had a big game, I watch The Waterboy before I go to sleep. And I'm like, Jesus, that's cool, you know? And he's like, and it would motivate me, you know, to go and, I mean, dude, Shaq's the greatest. His elbows, he literally would have me grab his elbows and be like, you know how many guys I've made retire with these? I'm like, I'm sure plenty, Shaq. Dude, he's the greatest guy. We became immediate friends. Like, he was shooting his TNT basketball show and flying in between shows, you know? And so he looked tired, and I'm all, big dog, if you're tired, take a little nap. And he'd fall asleep in the police car in between takes. And so I'd have to like wake him up. Okay, Shaq, we gotta do a take now. Bus randomly shooting our guns, and he knows how to use the guns really well. He would take my gun and pop out the thing from the 9mm and be like, don't touch it, it's hot. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Shaq. And we were out to dinner in Miami recently, a few months ago, and there was a police scene. And he has the lights inside of his grill, and the lights were on, and he's like, hey, let's see what's going on right here. And he pulled up to the scene of like an ongoing crime or whatever was going on, and there was a cop like on a top of a trailer with his gun drawn, and Shaq's like, hey fellas, you all right? And they're like, yeah, we're good, Shaq. And I'm like, Jesus, Shaq, we just played cops in a movie. We don't have to play cops in real life. But that was one of my funnest parts, because I got to hang out with him all the time, and he's a gem of a guy. He's a really, really good dude, and he's a great dad too, which is what I respect about him too, ultimately. And he's so smart too. He's got his doctorate. I predict someday he'll probably get his law degree. He's just a really motivated, hardworking dude, and I hope he and I get to do some more stuff together, which I think we will.
Tell me about the transition between like your college days playing lacrosse, like when it actually became like, I'm gonna fucking start acting these movies, and tell me about your early success, how that felt.
Well, you know, it's funny because I was a PA on the Larry Sanders Show. Well, Bernie Brostein, I was going to get offered, I think, this MTV show to play like a singer in this show. And Bernie Brostein, who was the owner of my management company at the time, said, hey kid, you don't want this show anyways. They're going to send you to Vancouver, because I was brand new in town. And I just moved up from San Diego. And he's like, don't go there. You're going to go to Canada, and you won't get paid. He's like, you need to pay some dues in the business. And I was like, well, you guys produced the Larry Sanders Show, and I thought it was hilarious. So I was like, get me a PA job in that show. And meanwhile, Shandling and I became friends because he knew his manager was Brad Gray at the time, who was Bernie Brostein's partner. So Gary was very cool to me. He would give me time to go to my auditions and stuff, even while I was a PA. He'd be like, Peter, just go pretend that it took you a long time to get the lunch and go do your audition. Like, he was really cool to me, dude. So I was fortunate, and he would come see me. I had a band at the time, and he would come see my band play all the time with like Jennifer Aniston and Gene Triplehorn, just random friends of his. And he made me the water delivery guy in his show. And then he also gave me the option to, if I wanted to, he's like, well, do you want to be a production coordinator? And I'm all, no, dude, I'm good on that. Because production's hard, especially at the lower level. Production assistants and coordinators, they work their asses off. Thank you very much. They do. And so he ended up making me the water delivery guy in his show. And I just felt fortunate, man. Anytime I ever got a job, anytime I was lucky enough to do anything, perform, whether it be at a coffee shop or for, like, sometimes I sing in Huntington Beach presently with my reggae band for the homeless kids to raise money down there. Always felt lucky. And I always feel that it's better to be lucky than good, because if you're lucky, good stuff happens to you all the time. And more often than not, a lot of good or great people don't ever get discovered, or they never get the breaks that they deserve, especially with reality TV, because the other people who will be on a reality TV show will let you pay them nothing, and they'll do the most asinine stuff. Not that I haven't done asinine stuff as my characters, but those are characters who get paid to do asinine stuff. So, man, I've always felt fortunate. I mean, even like after I was a PA and got my first acting jobs, I became Brad Pitt's assistant, and for 2.5, almost 3 years, whatever. And that was a great job too, because he would tell me, look, man, these auditions, you're gonna have millions of them. Don't take them that serious. He's like, do the best you can, but if the part's right for you, they're gonna know it. Or if they don't have someone in mind already and they're actually giving you, because more often than not, they know who they want to hire. And people are just going in to read in case they can't get the person that they want to hire, And Brad would make me take things very lightly and throw my sides away. When I get home, he'd be like, don't even worry about that shit. And so I've always really been lucky with all this stuff, fortunate and real fortunate. And I guess I'm pretty good at my job, so I've continued to work for a few years. My ex-wife Cynthia, who I was married to for 16 and a half years, and 20 years I was with her, she was his manager even way back when. And so I met Brad. This is a pretty good story. She was at work one day, and I was making blueberry banana pancakes in her kitchen, because I was really hungry. And and so Brad came to the door. It was like one of those doors in LA. We have the old metal doors that were like, that you lock, that aren't really screen doors, that thick metal. I hear someone knocking it, and I go out there, and he has that Early Grace hairdo from California. I'm like, oh, you're that guy, her client, that she's always talking to on the phone. He's like, oh, you're that new guy she's dating, right? I'm all, yeah, dude, you like blueberry banana pancakes? You want some? He's like, yeah, of course. And so he came in, I whipped him up some pancakes, and the rest is history from there. I've spent time all over the world with him, and was fortunate enough to be his assistant and meet David Fincher through him. Also I used to shoot all his Japan-only commercials with him as like the other actor. I believe we did the first Prius commercial for Japan only, and I was the other dude in it with him. And just another thing where I was just lucky to be his friend, and he didn't want to, some of those jobs, a few of those jobs, he didn't want to hire people who he wasn't friends with or whatever, so for comfort he would hire me. So that's how I met Brad Pitt. He's like a regular guy from Springfield, Missouri. He's like a total family man now, obviously with his 6 children. He's a great dad. And back in the day, we were young. We were a lot younger when we met, so we hung out as younger actors who did what we did, He's a good dude, man. He's, there's nothing bad to say about Brad Pitt because he's just a regular good guy. I mean, people would never know because they don't get a chance to hang out with him because he's always been with famous girls. I actually introduced him to Jennifer. I was an assistant when he was with Gwyneth, and I've been, around him a lot as I was in the south of France helping take care of the other kids when he and Angie had Knox and Vivian. So continue to remain close with him. He's a good dude. He's my son Jake's godfather. I'm always, it's funny because you watch him early career all the way through, like from Seven to like Benjamin Buttons, which David Fincher directed both of those, and you can tell he's a guy who, like all these younger movie stars who I like watching, who like Jeremy Renner type kids who just get better and better with each movie, and that's what I like about this. It's like the British guys who are all theater trained guys are incredible actors when they get here, whereas guys like Brad and others get better and better with the more movies that they star in, and I appreciate that. They take their craft like serious, but yet they're fun to be around. Yeah, well, dude, you know what? It's a trip when you have your first kid and you cut the umbilical cord and you're like, wow, I was waiting for you, Jake. I knew the guy. I knew my oldest son's name right when he came out, and it definitely changes you. Because you lose that I don't give a shit attitude where, like, when you're even maybe your guys' age, the Brightside boys, you can live a little reckless because you don't know what you have ahead of you. You can, I used to tell my family, oh, who knows if I'm going to make it till past 18 or whatever, because I was sometimes a little bit of a shit show, as I have been off and on in different parts of my life. But being a dad definitely changes you to a point where you want to be around for your kids, and you do want to have the best for them, and you want to show them the best sides of you. Not that I always have, we are humans. We are made to err, which is the good part. Because as long as you admit when you're wrong and admit that say you're sorry and stuff like that, your kids know that, and hopefully they'll get those traits too. But being a dad's cool. I like it because my kids are older than Brad's kids. My kids are older than Adam's kids. My kids are older than all the guys that I work with, and they're all older than me. So I was a dad. I started, when I was younger, and I'm glad I did, because now I feel like I have, from now on, the next 20, 30 years to end up working with younger kids like you guys and helping build my own camp and teams of different guys and different girls and people I want to work with, I don't know, dude. Parenting style, I try. It's weird because I coached my 12-year-old today in lacrosse, and your own kid, when you coach him, your own kid likes to push your buttons. He likes to be last in the huddle. He likes to not hustle because he's your kid. But when you get hard on him because you have to be equally as hard, if not harder, on your own son because they're acting like that, then they try to flip it around on you and be like, Dad, you're such a dick to me. All my teammates ask me why you're such a fucking asshole to me. It's like, no, Lucas, wrong. If your teammates could see from you guys are 12. If your teammates could see from my perspective that all you're doing is pushing my buttons, being last in the huddle, doing what you're not supposed to do on the field when you know better than them what to do, because we go over it over and over in the backyard. I show you, I teach you, and yet you have resistance to what I teach you because I'm your dad. And it was the same with my elder one, Jake, I still hold the interception record where I'm from, and lacrosse, I got a scholarship to college, whatever, and I still can play well. So I show them, but your own kids will never embrace that you're as good as you were or as good as you are because you're your own kids, because it's too close to you. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's very true. And that apple and that tree may not have the best relationship just because you're similar, So my parenting style, I'd say I get frustrated sometimes, like everybody. I probably curse at my kids sometimes too much, but that's also an occupational hazard for being in Happy Madison movies and being on comedy albums and being in rated R comedies. I wouldn't say that I have the worst vocabulary and or dialogue situations, but I can get a little bit snappy being from New England and having my attitude that I have. I can get a little bit short with them. I don't hit them or anything. That ninja style thing was a joke. But you do your best. That's all you can do. Parenting's tough these days. I would state that little boys that deserve a kick in the ass should be able to get one, but you can't give it to them. And I'm not saying hit your kids. I wouldn't promote anyone to hit their kids. That's just not mentally healthy for either party. You know, sometimes I'm really peaceful and fun, great dad to be around, and sometimes I'm sure, like my son says, I'm a dick, and I don't mean to be a dick. Sorry, Lucas, but you know, he also definitely pushes my buttons, you know. And for instance, today he had 1 goal and 3 assists in a 9-2 game, and he probably should have had 3 goals and 4 assists, but he was a little lazy and a little bit sloppy, and he admitted it to me in the car on the way home. And that's good. As long as we can both admit our shortcomings, we always come back to a happy medium. You know, like we'll get in an argument right before we go to Best Buy, and I'll be like, well, I'm not buying you what I said I was going to buy you. And then, of course, by the time you're out of the car in the parking lot, you give him a hug and a kiss, and you buy him 2 games instead of 1 for the Xbox, you know? So I guess that's my parenting style. You don't have to be outside skateboarding all day, but you can be. You don't have to be outside playing your sports all day, but you can be. You can be inside playing video games. Look, I help them try to find a balance, but being tough on them doesn't work all the time. Trying to do stuff with them more often than not works, you know? Like, you know, if Lucas wants to skateboard, I'll go skateboard with him, you know, and or, you know, I will go do stuff with them and try to show them stuff or have them show me stuff if they know how to do stuff better than me, rather than be like that overbearing guy who like, oh, my kid's the best. I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? If my kid needs to come out of the game and sit down because he's acting like a jerk or done something wrong, I sit his ass down. And that's not being tough. I think that's just being real. People who know me know that I'm not a guy. I don't hide my cards. I throw my cards on the table as a dad, as a parent, as a person. And I'm a guy who wears my heart on my sleeve. You know, I'm emotional. I'm an emotional guy. I'm a loyal guy. And I just like to teach my kids that. I like to teach them, you know, hey, nice to meet you. When they meet someone, look them in the eye, give them a good handshake. When you see them again, nice to see you. Ask them about how their families are doing. You know, just normal, common courtesy type stuff is what I instill, because that's basically what I got from my parents, which is really, I think, one of the best things you can give a kid.
Do they get your funny genes?
Yeah, they're both funny, dude. They're both very funny in their own right. Like the older one can rap like crazy. This kid is... Jake Dante is a white Jewish kid from the west side of LA who wishes he was, you know, a Crip from South Central, because he does not know the difference. You know, he doesn't actually know the living difference of what a Crip, why a Crip had to become a Crip. You know, and I grew up with a lot of kids from Hartford, Connecticut, and I knew why they acted the way they acted from the projects and stuff because of their situations. And my, you know, they don't grasp that because West LA, as I said, you guys, the life here is just right on. You have everything at your fingertips.
Do your kids like your movies?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. They dig them somewhat, but they're friends much more so. You know what I mean? You can see that when they bring kids over the house. You know, they're kids, especially if what do they call it? If they're kids, they're chopping. I guess they call it. They're doing chops. All of a sudden, that's a code word for bong hits, I guess. So all of a sudden, you'll have random 17 and 8-year-olds going, "Oh, Peter, I cannot believe we're hanging out with Dante from the movies." And you're all, "Yeah, dude, Dante. That's me in real life. I'm his dad. So can you go easy on the chops?" So yeah, it's pretty. Being one of the best weed dealers of all times in the movies hasn't really been conducive to the healthiest of upbringings with the eldest, especially because kids actually think that I wasn't acting. You know, like as Nick Swartzen in his stand-up said, I was smoking real weed the whole time. No. I was 8 months sober. I had to be naked. I was totally self-conscious about having to be naked, you know. And if I was high on set, then Swartzen was drunk the whole time on set. So let's just say that. Yeah, I got a little bronze in Hawaii. I'm trying to keep it up, even though it's winter time in LA. I like being tan. I love moms will always be like, moms of kids I coach will be like, you should put some sunscreen on. You should, you know, hey, wear a hat. Do you wear sunglasses? I'm like, Mom, you can worry about you. I'm doing me. You do you. I'll do me. You know, because, yeah, I like the tan. I like the brown look. I think it's pretty cool.
Tell us about what's the first genre music bands you liked, what you got into.
Well, it's funny, dude. Sandler also, Adam, was always in bands when he was a kid, since in New Hampshire, and his band like won Battle of the Bands, and my band growing up used to play at all the parties at the Legion Hall and like parties in backyards and stuff. So I'm sure at the beginning it was like classic rock mixed with, you know, old old blues guys and old like Nancy Wilson type blues singers. You know, Louis Prima, Dean Martin, very old school stuff I loved growing up. And then when rap and hip hop came about, I was all about that too. Run DMC, you know, Houdini, all those old school East Coast rap groups I was all about growing up as well. So I just love everything about music. And as I stated before, I sang in choir since I was a little kid. And I always wanted to be a singer in a band, no matter what, which I continue to do. And Adam and I actually have a jam band that I'm sometimes a co-lead singer in with him. We play the Happy Madison holiday parties and shit. So, and we do all sorts of diverse music in that. Like, he loves doing a lot of the classic AC/DC stuff. And then I get to sing with Alice in Chains, Sean, and Jerry Cantrell, the two remaining members. Funny story, too. When I lived in Mission Beach, when I transferred from Hofstra to San Diego State, there was a kid who lived there at the time named Eddie Mueller, who present day is Eddie Vedder. And we all remember he lived on Jersey Court, I think, when I was living on Sunset Court. And he took off one day with his cassette up to Seattle because he was auditioning for this band. When he disappeared and left Mission Beach, I was managing a local surf bar called Acapulco Joe's at the time, where we used to have nickel night on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so SDSU would come down and pay $5 cover and be throwing nickels and pennies at me at the bar. It was ridiculous. But then the MTV Music Awards came on, and he was singing Jeremy on it. And I was like the only dude in my bar at that point that night, and I just was cranking and staring at this, staring at Eddie Vedder now, going like, wow, bro. If this guy can do this, I gotta do something, you know, I gotta try to do something, you know. And I also believe if I never left Mission Beach, I might still be there on mushrooms and acid, walking around not knowing who Peter Dante is. I'd be like, who? Where? Skateboarding and falling, you know.